Hello, everybody, and welcome to this very special webinar where we are discussing a property development in Marvilla, Lisbon, Portugal. It's the first time that John Raby and Andrew Golding, two doyens in the South African property industry, have collaborated on a project. And we're going to be speaking to Andrew and to John Raby during the course of this webinar to get some more detail and answer some very pertinent questions around this exciting development. But before we get to talking to them, let's take a look at what you can expect in Marvilla, Lisbon, Portugal. Marvilla certainly is a very special place. And as promised, I'll be talking later in the webinar to John Raby. But a little earlier, I got to catch up with the CEO of Pam Golding Properties, Andrew Golding, to find out what makes this project so special for him. What about this project really sings to you in terms of delivering value for investors, wonderful returns, and particularly this part of Lisbon, which, if you look at Johnny's track record, he's always been wonderful about regeneration, urban regeneration. This talks very much to that theme.
Yeah, Matt, I think we, first of all, are delighted to be collaborating with Johnny on this. It's taken a long time to get our two organizations to work together, and I really think it's been worth the wait. I think that in terms of our business, offering South African and African clients an international offshore solution in respect of property has always been a core part of our business for the last 45 years. But this project in particular is really special. It comes at a time when I think South Africans are looking to diversify their offshore property interests. And we see it as a key responsibility to ensure that we give them something that is reliable and something that they can genuinely invest in with the potential of good upside. So this project is situated in Lisbon, in Portugal, which has obviously been a significant growth node over the last couple of years. We've had a business there now for a number of years and have offered South Africans significant investment upside returns. This particular project we really think does tick many of the boxes around creating an ideal product and location mix. So it's in a fantastic location in Lisbon, which we really think, in terms of urban regeneration and Johnny's skill set, is ideally placed. It comes in at a price point which South Africans are going to be able to afford. There are really favorable lending opportunities in terms of offering South Africans very low interest rates in terms of the opportunity of lending. And there's a rental guarantee, which gives our clients peace of mind for a number of years, 2 years to be specific, which means that for a couple of years post the acquisition of this product, they don't have to worry about it, and then there's the upside in terms of capital growth. We are really delighted with all of the parties who are collaborating here, but we in particular take our responsibility to our clients extremely seriously, and we want to give them confidence that they are investing in a product a long way from home, but one which they can rely on. And I think that with Johnny and the rest of the team, with Newman, we are extremely confident about being able to advise clients in this regard. And from a personal point of view, I'm not only endorsing this product, but I'm also investing in it. And so we'll be investing personally, and hopefully that will also give confidence to anybody who's considering this amazing project.
And a great example of track record, formidable track record, creating trust.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. I think between the two of us, we've got close to 100 years of property experience. Johnny a bit more than me. But I think that also is an important consideration for people when they see this collaboration coming together.
Marvilla is being developed as a joint venture by Reward Properties, the joint venture partners being New World, John Raby's offshore entity, and RE Capital, which is led by Newman Leach. Newman has a lot of experience developing in Portugal, and he had this to say about Lisbon.
Portugal has become one of the stars of the EU bloc. It's considerably diversified its economy, as a result of which Portugal grew at a faster pace than the Eurozone from 2016 to 2019. Forward-looking estimates from the European Union show that the Portugal economy is going to pick up from where it left off in 2019 and is set to outstrip growth in the EU of between 30 to 50 basis points per year. Fighting unemployment has also been a focus of the government, with levels set to stabilize at around 7% and improving to around circa 6.7%, which is excellent news for Portugal, and it will allow the economy to rebound as forecast. It also underpins the trend for Portugal to register lower levels of unemployment than the EU, which it started doing in the years pre-COVID. Portugal more generally is emerging on the European and global stage as a sought-after location, and there are so many reasons why. Solid infrastructure, an excellent private healthcare system, an internationally recognized education system, a low cost of living compared to the rest of Europe, very high levels of safety and security, skilled and multilingual, hardworking population with a can-do attitude. And lastly, of course, the sublime weather puts Portugal as one of the front-runner destinations within Europe.
So wonderful to hear the views of both Andrew Golding and Newman Leach. But now, as promised, we're going to talk to John Raby himself. John, you've partnered with Newman Leach on another project. The first collaboration between your development company, in this case an offshore development company, and Pam Golding International. So a little bit of property history being made there. But I guess the first and obvious question, why Portugal for you? What speaks to you about the country and the opportunity that it offers?
Oh, good morning to you, Matt. Portugal is a very special place. I arrived there 2.5 years ago, and it didn't take me long to fall in love with specifically Lisbon. And now that we are developing around Portugal, the entire country is very similar in many ways to the way we live and operate in South Africa, and specifically in Cape Town. It's a beautiful city historically. It's been refurbished and remodeled, and the markets and the way it works is just so what we used to in terms of the urban planning, in terms of the architecture. It also offers fantastic weather. It offers not only that, it's a very secure environment, very, very low crime rate. And therefore, it gives us the opportunity where there is still enormous growth in the Portuguese residential property market. It's been improving year on year. It stopped slightly and went flat during the COVID, but it has already picked up by the reports that are out. And we are very, very optimistic that we are going to do something very, very special in Lisbon and in Portugal itself.
The country's had its challenges, even pre-COVID, but what's very clear is that with strong government support, it really has made its way out of some of its trials and tribulations. And there's a lot of positivity around Portugal as a country, around Lisbon as a city. And now specifically, if we drill down even further to Marvilla, what is so special about Marvilla for you as a property developer?
Well, one of our most important developments that we've done over the years, and a lot of it is encapsulated in renewal. In other words, areas that need to be renewed but are in prime positions very close to the inner CBDs of the cities, and specifically in Cape Town where I live. Woodstock is 5 minutes from the CBD of Cape Town. Marvilla is 10 minutes from the CBD of Lisbon. And they echo a lot of similarities. In other words, Woodstock itself really underpinned by the art, culture, and about what we can do to bring people closer to the city. And Marvilla, when I saw it for the first time, I had goosebumps. It was incredible. It is so similar. And the difference, though, in Marvilla is that we have a building that is 220 years old that we're going to now refurbish and renew, and inside be able to put new accommodation where we are then able to produce something very special at very, very good prices, which has always been our motto.
Well, it's interesting that the building is reflected on this amazing image behind us here. And this facade will be preserved and protected. I have to ask you, did it have anything to do with the fact that this building was actually a wine merchant's? Did that draw you to it?
It certainly did. It certainly did. But I think, one has got to look at, when you look at the inner city, and I think also Sydney, Australia have proved it, and specifically also in Philadelphia in the US, you need to have all the aspects of real estate working. You need to be close to the CBD. You need your transportation links. This particular site, Marvilla, is on the Tigris River. It's a great position, and it's very, very accessible. So to be able to create value so close in these historic cities, and have the opportunity to remodel something that's been there all these years, is very special. It's not often you get that, and that's why we believe there's going to be so much value added in this development over the period ahead of us.
And you talk about refurbishment and regeneration, if you like, of a part of a city or a suburb next to the CBD. But this is not your first entry into Portugal. Tell us a little bit about LX Living, which is very much in the heart of the CBD of Lisbon.
Well, I mean, just briefly, when Newman Leach phoned me to say, in fact, he had come to Cape Town, post that phone call, and we showed him around Century City, which is where we're sitting today, which is really encapsulate the new era of urbanism where we can have live, work, and play in one precinct. On the very first trip to Lisbon, he took me to Amoreiras, where Alex Living is situated. And it's, again, that prime business district, but offers the opportunity to be able to incorporate living and working in precincts that are really in the right spot, just off the Avenue de Liberdade, which is the Champs-Élysées of Lisbon. And we've seen how hospitality plays into that. So they all interlinked. So if you have to have hospitality, you need to be in the areas where tourism wants to be. And that's what Alex Living offers. And that's why we were able to produce this magnificent building, which is now under construction, 1 year to go. Sales have been strong. 115 units out of the 150 units have been sold. We've achieved real good value, in an uptick in sales prices, even through COVID. But Lisbon and Portugal, and specifically the EU, are going to feel the post-COVID situation, low interest rates, governments pushing lots of capital into these big cities to get them accelerated in terms of growth and bring the tourism back. And that's what gives me the optimism so much about Portugal.
So John has made reference both to the Marvilla project and to LX Living. Time now to jump from our Cape Town studio over to Lisbon in Portugal and to talk to the head of sales both for Marvilla and for LX Living, Alan Bell. Alan, let's jump straight into the most important things. Let's talk about apartment sizes and pricing in the new Marvilla project.
Super. And Matt, thank you. Nice to see you, gentlemen. Hello, Johnny. And indeed, so you've caught us at a fantastic time, Matt, because we had a soft launch function just last Thursday evening in Lisbon, and we're all recovering slightly from that rather frenetic amount of activity. But what it did do was it forced us to hone our game. So your very first question, I can kick off by telling you that we have 166 apartments in the Marvilla 1 phase 1 launch, consisting of 97 of the 166. And we're very happy to be able to showcase studio apartments, or T0s as they're called in Portugal, which are 41 square meters, right up to luxury 5-bed apartments in the Palace, which are 300 square meter units for 1.6 million. So there's a square meterage and a ticket price, we hope, for everybody, Matt.
You mentioned your pre-launch. We have to ask how things have gone since the pre-launch of the project.
Yes, of course, and we would be delighted to answer that because they went extremely well. Clearly, we launched on the back of an awareness campaign rather than a full sales campaign. The awareness campaign was tied into the opening of an art gallery branded as MAD, the Marvilla Art District, okay? And we had about 300 people attend a gala evening on Thursday where we showcased artwork and our new sales center, which opened effectively on this weekend. So how did it go? I think the fact that we had 300 people pitch up on the night was fantastic. And we're very happy to tell you that we've officially done to date over 47 reservations of the 97. So we're sitting at pretty much nearly 50% of our inventory is now reserved. And we will go through over the next 30 to 60 days, Matt, the actual formal legal process of entering into what's called a CPCV or promissory contract, which is the legal terminology for a deed of sale equivalent. And that'll take place in the next 30 to 60 days. And so I think having done 45 plus units in the space of 2.5 weeks, virtually by word of mouth only, I think is a huge vindication as to the support people have for it and, of course, the price.
So we've heard from Alan about the sizing and the pricing of the apartments, but another important aspect, John, we're going to talk about furnishings, because a lot of your investors here are going to buy to let. They need some kind of reassurance about the value of their property. And that can come down to how it looks internally. This is a very important point of detail that you've paid attention to.
Yes, Matt, it's probably the most important in that when we design the units, it's very important not to just design spaces without concentrating on what the furnishings are going to be. So the furnishings, to a large extent, inform what the layouts of the units are. So we go into a lot of detail on the interior decoration, which encapsulates the furnishings. And because of the way we are bringing in the hospitality play, you need to have consistency in the furnishings, and you need to furnish it to the same standard and the specification that we have done in the architecture and the development, which is of a very high standard. Portugal, the standards of finishes are of a very high standard because they have marble in Portugal, they make it there, and we've timber floors throughout, which is very, very important in terms of what it's eventually going to look like in terms of the finish. But the furnishings have been beautifully designed by specialist interior decorators and of the highest order in terms of brands. And the reason is we're going to be offering those units to the hospitality sector run by Marvilla, which is Reward Properties hospitality play and platform. And therefore, there's consistency. And therefore, our investors who are buying from us, or if not investors, if people, our purchasers are wanting to stay there, they are getting a completed product that is, which is in a position where it fulfills everything in terms of the property fundamentals. We always say it's like a triangle. At the top of the triangle is architecture. On the left-hand side is landscaping, hard and soft. And on the right-hand side, the most important is furnishings or decoration. And when I talk about the decoration, it's not only the decoration of the internal units, it applies to the entire development.
So some fascinating information on the furnishings and how they are part of the design of this amazing development. Alan, I want to come back to you and ask around pricing and timelines. When do payments need to be made? What needs to be put down as a deposit? These are all really important questions that are regularly asked when launching a development such as this.
Yes, indeed. And what we try to do, and Johnny's had years and years of experience in this, we try and keep it relatively simple, Matt. So in fact, it's a 3-stage program on payment terms. The first is to reserve an apartment. By a reservation, we mean you sign a simple 1-page reservation document and you pay 10,000 euros. Okay, that's equivalent of about 180,000 rand. That is paid, and an RA or reservation agreement is then signed, which references to the second step, which is the signing of the promissory contract and the payment of 30%, including the 10,000 that's already been paid. So let's keep the math simple. If you're buying something for 300,000, 30% is 90,000. You've already paid 10, so you would pay a further 80,000 euros on signature of that promissory contract. And that then leads us into the third and final payment, which is only on the final deed or when transfer is passed, which is in this case, Matt, approximately 2 years from now. So to summarize, 10,000 to reserve, 30% circa 30 to 60 days later. That gives you time to have a lawyer appointed, to do your own due diligence, and obviously move to signatures because you're in a different continent. You need power of attorneys. You need sometimes to have documents apostilled or couriered, or you come here yourself. That's why we allow a 30 to 60 day period. And then, as I said, stage 3, Matt, is final payment. The remaining 70% is due at the final deed. Nothing in between, no stage draws, no building draws. Fairly simple.
Now, it stands to reason that almost all, if not all, investors will be relying on mortgages for all or some of the balance of that payment. How, as a South African, do you go about obtaining a mortgage in Portugal, and what is the implication around pre-approved?
Okay, very, very, very vital question. So first up, I have to tell you that the process is a little different to the way a South African buys in South Africa, where you go to a bank and you make your purchase subject to a mortgage, okay? In Portugal, Matt, it works slightly differently. The promissory contract, by the nature of the word promise, is a promise to pay 100% of the proceeds at the final deed, which, as I've said, you've already paid 30, so you've got 70 to go. Approximately 6 months prior to handover, okay? At that stage, and only then, can you physically apply to the bank for a mortgage in Portugal. Now, that takes the form of a set of application forms and the KYC and anti-money laundering compliance issues, which is why it can only be done 6 months prior, okay? And at that stage, the bank would give you a formal letter. But in this interim period, and this is your question, I'm guessing, as to what happens between now and 6 months prior, we get what's called a simulation done by a bank, and we use a number of banks here in Lisbon, who will take the purchase price per your promissory contract. They will look at whether you're in the rent guarantee position or if you're buying it purely for another purpose. And they will do a simulation for you. And typically, Matt, we are seeing that those applications in principle are supported to a loan to value of up to 60%, okay? Which means, mathematically again, your purchaser has to top up by potentially another 10% at deed of sale to go to a 40% cash deposit and a 60% loan. Mm-hmm. And that loan, by the way, is also backed up now already with an indication as to current interest rate levels, which I'm sure would be your next question. And that is that at the moment they are circa 1.2 to 1.3%. Low interest rates are very low in Europe, as you know, and compared to about 7 or so in South Africa. So you can borrow, in summary, up to 60% LTV, loan to value, and you can borrow at circa 1.3%, which when you look at our website, we have a tab on there called the investment model, Matt, and we draw and ask all your potential purchasers to look at that link on the homepage of the website, which gives you a working example, Matt, of I think that one uses 270 or 280,000, which is an average small T1 or big T0, and it'll tell you all of what your costs are, stamp duty, legal fees. It'll then work you through a model of assuming a 60% loan to value, what your monthly mortgage costs are, what your service charges are, or levies, as you call them in South Africa, your IMI, which is your municipal taxes, and it'll show you that at 60%, it's a break-even model, Matt. Mm. In other words, to use the colloquial terminology, the deal washes its face. The rental income is absolutely perfectly, in terms of a quantum, pays off all those outgoings, leading you in a net cash position. And we can get a simulation up front, but Matt, it is not a subject to deal. It's a deal which is only applied for 6 months prior to completion.
And just to clarify, you spoke about the rental yields. Let's just make those abundantly clear, the rate of the rental return and the duration thereof.
Yes, of course. So what we do is we've again, through experience at selling offshore properties from Portugal, we offer an investor package to the offshore buyers, which comprises of two components. The property comes fully furnished. Fully furnished is a proper turnkey package, and that enables us to run a hospitality platform on your behalf. And in turn, we guarantee you 4% per annum for 2 years post-completion. So mathematically, you've got a 2-year phase now to build, where you've paid your 30% and no further. And then you have your handover, you collect the keys, we run it for you as a hospitality platform, and we pay you for the next 2 years, 4% per annum on your purchase price. Now, there is one slight caveat, which I must tell you, and that is that rent guarantee and furniture pack only apply to properties sold for 530,000 euros and below. We don't do them on the larger units, Matt, for the very simple reason, and that is that most of those bigger unit purchases are people who buy them to live in them. This is really aimed at investors who are buying the studios and the one-beds.
Well, thanks for that clarity. And Alan, a final question for you. Let's talk timelines, building timelines, and the start and the finish dates of construction as they are proposed.
Excellent question. So we had our launch event last week. We're on site now with the sales center. The next timeline is the commencement of the demolition. Clearly, this is an old building. Part of the building is a national heritage site, which means we maintain the facades, but we can smack everything down behind it. So within the next 3 to 4 months, Matt, we move on site with the demolition and the excavations of the basements. Typically from Elshish Living and our other projects, that takes about 6 months. And then the physical superstructure of the building takes a further 18 months. So budget on a 2-year program from the payment and signatures of your promissory contract to your keys.
Well, our thanks to Alan for all that detail. There is a lot to digest in an offshore property investment, but certainly every base has been covered and all the details are available there. Just reflecting on something that Alan said during his chat with us there, it was the launch event that took place in Marvilla a short while ago and the enormous levels of interest that have been expressed already. John, that must be very gratifying to you. You said you'd identified something here which spoke to the way you had developed in the past. It's about regeneration, refurbishment, and the uplifting of a certain area. And many have been curious about what made you do this. You've achieved so much in the Cape Town and the Western Cape property scene. There must have been a very special ingredient here that said to you, although it's far from home, it makes sense. I can see the opportunity in Marvilla, Portugal, to achieve what I've achieved here and more.
Oh, thanks, Matt. I think, if you want to really analyze it, when Newman Leishu's my partner, as you've alluded to, in Reward Properties, a very capable and very experienced property player in Europe. And when the site was brought to us, we believe in a whole lot of things make up the property. Let's call it wheel, and we just spokes in that wheel. And with having the backup in Lisbon from the Reward Property side, and from our side, we sent across to Portugal some of our top guys. So we've got a very strong presence there. So we knew if we got it right in terms of the philosophy of what we wanted to do, we could deliver it, because that's the key. You've got to really be able to deliver the product on time and maintain the high standards which we aspire to and have aspired to in terms of the investment that is made by our investors. So I think that this is such a unique site. And I think as a property person, it's in my veins. I'm thinking about property all the time. And when this came, it tickled my imagination that, and this magnificent building. which is absolutely so special. And amongst, as the team, we knew if we could keep the outside, which of course it was a heritage facade, and they're very strict in Lisbon, very regulated, we could produce something offshore, which similar to what we've done in South Africa. And this got me really pumped up, and I'm loving it. And I'm investing myself. We've invested our own capital. I mean, and therefore our investors are comfortable that we are not, let alone buying units, but putting in equity alongside our other equity players from all around the world. So I don't think you get many of these. I must be honest with you. You can get a site, it's vacant, but to have the building with all its beauty, as you see behind me, lit up like you would have seen on Thursday night, it is a compelling purchase, but it's affordable. And that's what the key is. It's not $1 million plus. It's 220, 230, 240, 250. A large amount of the units are under 320,000 euros. And it still offers, which is one of the most important things. Lisbon suffers, like any great European city or any city around the world, from parking. We were able to produce one parking bay for every apartment. Now, in South Africa, they're so used to getting that included. But when you're in a very, in an area where parking is at a premium, together with this emerging vibe and of the arts and the drama, which really anchor. And then, of course, Marvilla is also the first originator of the first tech hub in Lisbon, where Mercedes-Benz have anchored that. So you're getting this large amount of young people coming to get into the tech industry. The only thing missing was, or the logical extension was, accommodation and hospitality. And I mean, from a short-term stay. So we can't wait. And it's not the first site. We've got the site next door, so we can also manage the architecture between the two sites. And I think we just really are looking forward to produce something remarkable.
Yeah, your passion and your excitement are tangible. I've got this sneaking suspicion that you're only just getting going in Portugal.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Matt.
So during the course of this webinar, we've heard from John Raby, we've heard from Andrew Golding, Newman Leach, Alan Bell, and in closing, we're going to be talking to the head of Pam Golding International, Chris Immelman. Chris, you've been a driving force behind this development. I know you need no second invitation to talk about your passion, not only for Portugal, where you've been extensively involved, but particularly around this development.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. You're absolutely right. I do go on a little bit when asked about Marvilla and particularly about Lisbon. I've been hugely encouraged by our, in the last 5 years, what we've been doing in Lisbon. It's been fantastic to see the regeneration of the city in front of my eyes. I've watched a city that was really crumbling in the day when we first got there to what it is today. Both public-private partnership, people getting involved, smart developers seeing the opportunity and really transforming in what is now a fantastic city, rivaling Barcelona. And we've seen Barcelona, they've had 20, 30, 40, 30 years of upside and still some growth. And so Lisbon is in its infancy. We can see that. And with Marvilla now, you have a jewel, a little gem, right, sandwiched between the Park of Nations, which, as you know, is developed for the Expo in 1999, new, fully sold now, nothing left to develop, and downtown Lisbon, which has grown enormously. So if you see where Baixa is and you see where Park of Nations is, sandwiched in between is this little gem of Marvilla. It's just beautiful, ready, and Johnny spotted it, and he's got the gift. So we're delighted to be part of it.
Chris, over the years, you've fielded many questions and inquiries about Golden Visa, and we know that this particular development, you are not attaching, for good reason, to Golden Visa status, but that doesn't mean that you can't help clients with that if they so wished.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we're very aware of that. This is a complete value play. It's something a little differently. In the Golden Visa space, we got Johnny's Alex Living, which is fantastic. The credentials are all there. It's being built 12 months from finished, fully Golden Visa compliant. So right there, we've got an opportunity. And we've got several others. So, people can talk to us about Golden Visa in general, how it's going, how it's unfolded. So yeah.
And let's explore what you just said there about value creation. This has been a hallmark of John Rabi's developments here in South Africa.
Yep.
And I know you're excited about this collaboration because it is about not necessarily only buying an apartment that you might use, but actually really creating value.
Yeah. So that was for me was the very first excitement when Johnny called me and said, "Chris, I'm looking at this. What do you think?" And I could just see value screaming at me because we've already got the two sort of on both sides. We've already got that. You saw where the values were. We saw where the pricing is. And Johnny's able to come in much lower because the area is just being regenerating. So with that and coupled with that, the extremely low interest rates, record low interest rates, that Johnny's offering a guaranteed rental yield of 4%, you cash positive day one. And so when all of that is taken care of, and remember, they've got a 2-year building program, then they've got 2 years of the rental guarantee. So for 4 years, you're really sitting back and watching the value grow. So you're going to see some equity grow as it comes out of the ground and as it establishes itself. And of course, this will just be the catalyst to what's going to happen to the rest of Marvilla. So we see some upside for some years to come still.
And one of the benefits of not being linked to a Golden Visa program is that your entry level is that much lower.
Exactly. At 220, where do you find anything at 220? In a capital city of Europe, a new build, 220,000 euros, capital city of Europe, and Lisbon being voted as one of the top European cities year after year, in the last few years. It's just almost unheard of, and so that's why we think it's so good.
Now, Chris, there's been a lot of interest since the pre-launch release, but undoubtedly people are going to be interested due to the images they've seen, due to some of the computer-generated imaging of the interiors that we've seen, and finding out more about this regeneration project in Lisbon. How do they get in touch? Most simply, to express their interest.
Yeah, we prefer an email. Once we get on email, we can respond with all the pictures and all the necessary things that we have available to entice people and to showcase exactly what it's about. So simple. Portugal@pamgolding.co.za and Bob's uncle.
Well, we look forward to you getting in touch. There is a lot of detail around this extensive development and a wonderful collaboration it is between household names in South African property. Thank you for your time and your interest in the Marvilla project, and we look forward to being in touch further.